foster family, we have 10 pets. They are 3 Westies, Saffron, Belle and Beau, 5 tortoises, Herbie and Bernadette, Amy and Sheldon and Penny, and we have the 2 rabbits who are Poppy and Daisy. And the fact that there is several dogs I find really helps, because we've got several children and everybody can have a cuddle at the same time and everybody can get that attention really. The children that we've had and young people that we've had have often spent more time with the dogs initially, because you can have a chat if you want to chat, you don't get quizzed, you don't get asked anything, and they're just lovely company. So this is what we call the den, and it's our semi-independent room, but this goes down really well. It's got its own entrance, it's got its own set of rules. It is somewhere to practice being independent but safely. We're all in the house, they've got access to the house all the time. I've got a key for the den as well, so it's still one home, but this is a separate area for privacy. We've got rooms in the house for younger, under 16-year-olds. This is probably my favourite and most important thing, and it's our welcome book. So we don't really discuss this book, it's just left on the child's bed and in their own time they just go through it. But what is so important to me, because it introduces our family, there's photographs of everybody that's in our house and a little bit about them as well, what things they like, how old they are. And I think that it's, in the early days, it can be so daunting, and it's like, who am I with? And it's actually really nice to have a little bit of an explanation, and they also can create talking points. Because food and meals are such a high anxiety area for nearly all of the children that we've had, I like them to know what's coming, and I like them to be able to plan and not worry about their evening meal. So we have a Monday to Friday system, and on Sunday I'll plan out what we're going to have, and they simply just tick their name if they want it. And I have found that since we've introduced this system, I'm not getting asked at breakfast what's for tea, because children were obviously concerned, they were asking the question, and it's there, they open it up, and it's really lovely because spaghetti bolognese always goes down really well, and on Sunday you can hear the little whispers, I can't wait till Wednesday. Before a new foster child comes to join our family, it is an anxious time, but I would say it's more exciting than anything else, and we've got a lot of trust in the county council for matching us to the right placement. So before that child arrives, we don't question, are they right for us, because we're confident that they will be. I would say to people thinking about fostering to ring the local authority and ask as many questions as you can. When I tell people I'm a foster carer, a lot of people immediately say, I've thought about that, or I want to do that, and haven't. And I'll always question, well, why did you not make that call, or why did you stop? And it's often a fear that could be just, I don't know what the word is. it could just be resolved so quickly, and sometimes just asking questions and makes you realise that the things you're worried about aren't really there, or you can speak to somebody that's experienced it and gone through it, and have come out the other side and think, actually no, it is a really rewarding thing to do. I can't see myself doing anything different.
We're live.
Hello and good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's Nottinghamshire County Council Personnel Committee. For those watching on YouTube on live stream, this is a virtual meeting which is being held. Some of us are in County Hall and some members of the committee are based in their homes, and we are working together on this committee on the Teams system. It is being held remotely, as I say, but it is being recorded for publication should anybody wish to watch it again. So just for members watching, the members of the committee, I am Councillor Neil Clark. I'm the chairman of the committee. And then we have the vice chairman, Councillor Keith Walker. Then we have councillors Maureen Dobson, Errol Henry, John Longdon, Sheila Place, Stuart Wallace, Gordon Wheeler, Jonathan Wheeler and Yvonne Woodhead. Thank you very much indeed. And so with officers present, we have Marge Tower, the Service Director. We have Jill Elder, the Head of Human Resources. We have Julia Foster, the Business Support Group Manager. Sarah Drury, the Business Support Development Officer. Marie Rowney, the Group Manager for Customers and Complaints and Information. John Nylan, the Team Manager for Health and Safety, and Kaj Gutura, the Group Manager for Procurement. And we also have trade union colleagues present with us. And finally, the clerk to the meeting, Sarah Ashton. So without further ado, we'll now go on to item 1, minutes of the last meeting. May I sign those as a true and correct record of the last meeting, please? Anybody objecting? If you're objecting, please, or have a query, please show. I can't see anybody, so I will take that as approval of the minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Item 2, apologies for absence. I think we have one, do we, Sarah? You're on mute. I believe we have apologies from
Councillor. Sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Helen Ann Smith has sent her apologies in. No substitution.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Item 3, declarations of interest. Do any members or officers wish to declare any, first of all, pecuniary interests? Please indicate. Can't see any. And the second one, do you wish to declare any private interests, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary? I can't see anybody indicating. Thank you very much indeed for that. Just before we move on to item 4, I did just want to take this opportunity to let the committee know, if you weren't aware already, that there is a scheme under the Ministry of Defence, the MOD Employer Recognition Scheme. And I'm very pleased to be able to tell you that Nottinghamshire has been awarded a gold award for the employer recognition. And we've got a letter, and I hold it in my hand, if I hold it up there, a letter from the Lord Lieutenant to the Chief Executive notifying us or confirming that Nottinghamshire has been awarded that gold award. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because I did want to just pay tribute and thank Jill Elder very much for an awful lot of work that she has done in actually preparing that bid for that award and doing all the support work for it. So thank you very much indeed to Jill for all she has done for that.
Chairman.
Sorry, Councillor Dobson.
Chairman, can you just include all of us, because I think we'd all like to pay tribute to Jill. I'm amazed she's still got a voice, but I'm delighted, bless her, that she's got colleagues in today, so she won't have to do every report on the agenda.
Yes, yes. Sorry, yes, it's remiss of me. I was automatically assuming that I was speaking on behalf of the whole committee. So
just include us.
Thanks for that. And you're quite right. Yes, we have a good varied selection of supporting officers with us today. So on that score, let's move straight on to item 4 and the Business Support Review Programme. Julie, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. Members will recall that the Business Support Programme has been an ongoing programme for some considerable time, and that we bring our revised structure to Personnel Committee annually for your approval. Our programme has delivered significant cash flow efficiency savings over the last 5 years through our culture of continuous review and improvement, and a further £97,000 is due to be deducted from our budgets on the 1st of April 2021, as set out under paragraph 4 of the report. Members will be aware that we continue to review the way we deliver our support services in close collaboration and dialogue with our key stakeholders. Over the last year, we have revised our service offer to both adults and elements of children's in line with the structural changes that have taken place in both of those departments. We've also successfully transitioned and supported our significant workforce and our operational colleagues to work remotely and flexibly during the pandemic, continuing to ensure that business as usual activities are maintained, alongside the delivery of a number of additional support activities that have been necessary in responding to the demands of the current situation. We've also fulfilled a role in supporting wider colleagues to maximise the functionality of new technologies, and our business system support officers have become integral in supporting the rollout of Office 365 technologies and the escalation of digital transformation that's been brought about by this unprecedented year. As vacancies arise, we've taken the opportunity to explore alternative and better ways to get the job done. And this ensures that in identifying any posts to be deleted from our structure, there is no detrimental impact for our frontline colleagues. In this case, our net efficiency measures are set out under paragraphs 10 and 23 of this report. As such, members are asked to approve the revised business support structure as set out within Appendix A of this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Julie. Do we have any questions or comments from anybody, please? Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Chairman. Good report. And I'd like to say, as I joined this authority in 2013, at that particular election, and I just think this column here at the bottom of page 7 says it all, that not just I've worked under a Labour administration and I've worked under a Conservative administration, and it just goes to show that you can actually all work together, and I think that's excellent. I mean, I do see in 1920 we had not quite so many savings, but I think that was the start of the pandemic and everything that went with it. But I would like to just pay tribute to the staff. I think they've done a really good job, and I like the way that we're utilising staff vacancies. We've put other people into those staff vacancies because we've got to keep it going. It's essential, because I don't think however good ICT are, however good all of you are as officers, it's not easy to work remotely. We understand that. So I think well done, Julie and the team. And I just would like to say those few words, but I do like the fact that this committee has worked as a team. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Dobson, and thanks for those comments. And I'm sure, well, I know the staff will certainly appreciate those comments as well. And I'm sure we all associate ourselves with those thanks, and they have worked extremely hard, as you have said. Councillor Henry.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I was trying to raise my hand earlier on when you made a comment about the Gold Award.
Oh, right, sorry.
Yeah, but sorry, it wouldn't work. The machine wouldn't do it, but you've done it now. So I'm really pleased with that. The next forces.
It's called delayed action.
As an ex-forces member, I'm really pleased to that we've got this award. So thank you very much, Jill, for your hard work. on the report, just a query really. It's just on section 9, the paragraph in section 9 about the business partner model in operation. Can you explain what do you mean by the business partner model, please? That's all I need.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
So at the moment, as you know, as part of our directorate under Marge, we have various functions, and some of those functions have adopted what we call a business partner model of operation, which is a lead contact within the business that works directly with the stakeholder group. And when we did our work earlier in the year with adults following their departmental transformation, they actually said it would be easier for them to interface with one or two of the team managers in the service rather than having to interact with all 7 or 8 of them. So what we'd like to explore over the coming year is the opportunity in the wake of the adults departmental restructure, and also in dialogue with our other key stakeholders across the business, the opportunities to identify key members of the team with whom they would predominantly interact. I think the advantages of that are that those individuals can really focus on the key priorities for those services and get into more detail and depth and understanding about what those services want to achieve, rather than us kind of spreading that expertise more thinly, which obviously means it's diluted a little bit. So that's a model we'd like to try and explore over 21 into 22.
Okay.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Can't see anybody. Does anybody else wish to make any comment? Oh, sorry, Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to say I've got my hand up, but there you go.
Yes, I think in actual fact my there seems to be another still a little glitch. The list of participants seems to have disappeared at the moment, but no doubt it'll reappear. Anyway, Councillor Woodhead.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, a good report, but I'm just struggling with paragraph 8 on page 8 and trying to understand what the business support activities at arm's length means.
So what I was actually trying to convey in that report is that quite often in the past, prior to this particular situation, our operational colleagues have been quite passionate about having the business support aligned to them and physically very near to them. But what we've demonstrated as a result of having to respond to this pandemic is that we can still deliver really good quality support even though we may not be physically where you are. So we deliver it at what I've called arm's length, but you could equally use the words remotely or virtually. We've demonstrated that we can still fulfil support needs even though we're not directly alongside those operational colleagues.
Thank you. Is that to our staff or outside contractors? I'm not really sure what I'm...
That's our role in business support is predominantly working with internal stakeholders, so adults and children's and place colleagues who are employees within the organisation.
Thank you. That clarifies that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodhead, and it does demonstrate. In fact, I had sort of highlighted that for myself as well, that paragraph, because obviously it's been very challenging and very different. So people have had to make a lot of adjustments with their own lifestyle and the way they work, and everybody adjusts in different ways. So that's provided its own challenges, but it's absolutely fantastic how everybody has adjusted and stepped up and taken up the challenges and carried on providing the services that you have. So I think that needs to be emphasised.
Thank you.
I can't see any more hands raised, if that's okay. So the recommendation is before you on page 10, that we approve the revised business support structure. Is anybody against? Is anybody abstaining? I can't see anybody, therefore I would take that as unanimous approval. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Item 5, the performance update and the changes to the customer service operating model. Marie, oh yes, here we go. Lovely, nice to see you, Marie, and good morning. Would you like to? I realise you're very hardworking and talking to lots and lots of people, 67,000 of them approximately. But would you like to introduce the item, please?
Yeah. So the purpose of the report today is to talk you through, give you a performance update and talk to you about some changes in relation to our operating model and structure. And what we want you to do is we're seeking approval for members to implement the new operating model and structure that I'll take you through. There is quite a lot of detailed information within the report, so I'm not proposing to take you through all of that, but just a little bit about performance and our history. So we've been challenged over the years to provide adequate service and balance the increases in demand against service redesign whilst trying to drive channel shift and create new service options and self-serve. We've seen demand increase by 121% over the last 10 years, and our budget's been reduced by 50%. So we are doing far more with less than we've had. Each year, and for the last 5 years or so, really, there have been emergency situations of one kind or another that we've been required to support, mainly weather related, some reactions to legislation changes, some to service redesign. I don't think that will change in the future. And the last 2 years, as you know, have been particularly challenging for us with lots of flooding, some process improvements and changes, and also the recent COVID-related work, which is still ongoing. In terms of, our performance, there are in appendix, I think it's appendix 2, there's a lot of information in there around what we've done, the volumes that we've been dealing with over the last year. So we've taken 67,000 calls for extremely vulnerable people during the pandemic. We've worked 2,500 hours worth of overtime. We've done 4,000 calls of test and trace, handled over 4,000 social media inquiries, 10,000 NHS vaccination, and that's something that's come in this year in 2021. So at the end of January, we were asked to support with vaccination inquiries, and we've taken nearly 10,000 in just over a month. We're also supporting vaccination appointments for our own care staff and care staff in commissioned services that work on behalf of NCC. And annually, we're looking to do around 667,000 enquiries this year, which is significantly higher than we've ever had. And our design and build team have handled nearly 5,000 changes. And these could be anything from a change to our core routing system because of a service redesign, adding different options to our systems, supporting with the volunteer hub. We help build that. We've also helped to support the public health team with a new development of a system called COVIS. So those teams are very, very busy with change and have been. But what have we learned from all of that? So ever the optimist, there's a lot of key things that I think we've learned over the last year particularly and some of that is, it's been an exceptional year. We've had to react quickly and break down barriers, but we have. So things that we weren't able to do, we have been able to do because some of those barriers have been broken down because there was a desire and a need to do it now. Everyone's been pulling together towards a common goal, and when we do that, we can achieve really, really good things. I think the customer service team have been outstanding in their approach. They are resilient and seen as a trusted partner now, not only to our own internal departments, but to district partners and the NHS. I think it's forced us to review the way we do things and look at new processes and structures and build on what we've learned this year. we need to be able to flex to emergency situations quickly and efficiently. And we've had to change the way we recruit and train people as well. Be more flexible, be more interactive, do more virtual training. Demand for the CSC and on the CSC is up. And I think that's because we've been victims of our own success, really. What we've done, so we've had some budget reductions year on year. As I said earlier, 121% demand increase and a 50% reduction in budget. We've also seen demand grow, not only relating to COVID, but relating to individual services. So there's been increases in children's, in social care, in schools, in registration. And I think that's down to the fact that we haven't been able to, because we haven't had the resources, push the self-serve agenda as much as we could have done. We've also seen additional pressures on the design and build team, which has been related to change and BAU and not progress. So we need to work on that. And we've seen significant demand on all of the teams within the CSC. So I suppose the rationale for our changes and what we want to do with our structure is around we've been under the cosh a little bit. We did take a paper through to members in October because we were finding that we were tipping the balance. So some of the demand and flexibility against management and quality wasn't quite right. So we've been back and asked for some additional funding, which was sanctioned in October. And this has enabled us to look at our structure and design it to fit what we need to do. The funding's in place from April, so we would be wanting to put the new structure in place by April. But having this additional funding allows us to build upon what is already a very solid foundation. So it'll give us resources to be able to plan effectively and drive self-service. It will give us more technical expertise and resources. It will provide a team that will be able to continue to provide exceptional support to residents, our internal departments, but also our partners, and it will give us the ability to flex. So what we want to do, I suppose the pandemic's taught us a lot. We need to have the right people in the right place to be able to respond quickly. And we have had some of that, but we need to build on it. So we want to split the into two teams, an operational delivery team focused on delivering frontline services, doing social care, transactional enquiries, complaints and information requests across all channels. So that could be email, could be SMS, text, it could be telephone. And we need a design, build and support team. And we're pulling all those teams together because they were quite disparate. So that they can cross-train each other and support each other to hold up, if you like, the operational delivery team. It rationalises the support functions, merging them all together. So what we want to do is establish the new model, and to do that, we need to take on some additional resource. So within your report, you'll see that we're looking at 8 additional advisors and a team leader to support those, and a lead technical officer. We realised, I think, during the pandemic that the demand on our technical resource within the CSC has been completely stretched. So we need someone who can ensure that they're all trained effectively and consistently, and that work that is coming in is balanced against urgent work and development work. And we also want to create and implement a new training team that was within the operational team. We want to pull it out and look at how we can continue to train and develop people consistently across the whole area, look at creative ways to train and coach people virtually and safely in-house, and also support the ongoing development of the team through coordinated training approach. So the funding, there is a table within there. The additional post that we'd want comes to 229,000, and the remaining funds will be there to support the additional kit and home working arrangements that we put in place and any on costs for those posts. So I suppose the reason for the recommendation is, well, we pride ourselves in providing a great service. We need to be more resilient and we need to be able to respond in emergencies. The additional advisor capacity will help us to effectively manage the increases in demand, which is still rising, even though COVID is starting to slacken off. And it will give us the support in place to be able to act quickly, make changes, and support the ongoing the residents within Nottinghamshire more effectively. So the recommendation really is for you to agree to the new post and the revised structure as set out in Appendix 2, effective from the 1st of April.
Great, lovely. Thanks, Marie. And I mean, you talked about pride, and I'm sure pretty on safe ground, so I'm sure we are all very proud of the immense amount of work that you and or your team have done under very difficult circumstances. As we said earlier, you know, doing things differently, and boy oh boy, have your staff and team had to do things differently. So you have adapted amazingly, and not content with just doing a great job, you even take on the calls on behalf of the NHS as well, and teach the NHS a thing or two as to how to conduct calls properly and deal with calls, should I say. So I think all the team is doing is just brilliant, and I certainly would like you to make sure that you do convey the committee's thanks back to everybody at the work you have done, and also hopefully the work that you will continue to do. I'm sure that's taken as a given. But what you do say about the additional structure required, that's incredibly important to make sure that the service, as you've indicated when you were talking, that it continues to offer a great service. So as far as I can see, that is vitally important, and I'm hopefully confident that the committee will support it, but I will open it up, and I've got 3 people indicated at the moment. First one, Councillor Wallace, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I am unbugged. Yes, I want just to give congratulations to the entire teams. I've attended some of their meetings, and it's so interesting to see how well they've built their own support links. They've always problems and issues coming up, and they're working even though they're not in the same room, etc., and quite often doing it by phone another way. Have managed to come up with very, very good solutions which have gone through and have helped support staff to make sure that they continue to be able to do the service. I think any successful operation is always built on listening to your staff. They do the work, they do the job, and if you want to know who really knows how it works, is you go and do and ask the people who actually do it for us, and we are doing that. And the recommendations and what we're trying to do with it to expand, I think, is just an example of that. Find out what we do well and let's do more of it. Find out what we can't do for whatever reasons, and if we can't mend it, let's put it to one side and develop it elsewhere. So well done. I think it was a great well, I thoroughly enjoyed going to three of their team meetings over the Christmas period, and just listening to the morale and the energy that were in those groups. If we can get that throughout the organisation, we can't go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Just so everybody knows, I've got Councillor Jonathan Wheeler, Councillor John Longdon, and Councillor Maureen Dobson on my list at the moment. So, Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to reinforce the comments made already to thank the entire team and say well done, especially to Marie, because I've been speaking to Marie about setting up an email address that people can feedback their thanks to the vaccination teams at the hubs, and Marie set that up really quickly. Could have told me to go away. She was way too busy. That's probably what I would have said to me if I were her, but she didn't. She got it set up, and I know a lot of people have fed that back, and you know the team are really glad to see that feedback. That's something facilitated on top of everything else you've heard today. So I think we should be really proud of Marie and the team and what I think they're doing. Take on the extra work, no grumbles, getting on with it, delivering a good service. And as we always said, the customer service team is the face of the council, so to speak, when people ring up with complaints or questions. And I think it's really good to know the quality team we've got in place there and giving a good impression of the council. So thank you very much, Marie. Please pass the thanks on to your entire team. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Longdon.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just reiterate what everybody said, what a cracking report. But I also like to add the word adaptability. I think they are doing extremely well. I'd like to mention on page 15, item 4, about the flooding situation, how they've adapted to that very well. I've had a couple of serious issues myself, where one area we're going to have to dig it all up, put bigger pipes in. So that's extremely good, and I like to congratulate our flooding officers who I work with extremely well. Also make a comment on page 18, 11 and 12. Number of calls that officers mentioned about all this, and I think a lot of it's down to modern technology, instant communication today. Many lanes of instant communication, email, phone, God knows what else. Hopefully that's going to settle down after the COVID panic, shall we say, is dropped off a bit later this year. But again, I offer my congratulations to all this work that's being done. And I have to say, the dedication and adaptability to each situation, and my congratulations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Chairman. Marie, it's going to be dreadful for you. I too think it's an excellent report, and thank you. It's very explicit, and that's what's good about it. But I would like to pass comment on your comments within your report on lessons learned. I think that's excellent to do that, because it was new, it was different, and yes, it's been absolutely manic to include the whole of the county, because that's what we did with the hub. And then, so therefore, we've got to learn lessons, all of us. Now, Stuart Wallace has said he's sat in on some of your meetings, and the enthusiasm and the way that your team work. Can I just say to you that I don't think it's just your team that does that, because I think you've probably encouraged the rest of the county council to do that. John Longdon has passed comments about the flood team. Well, the flood team are just as enthusiastic, and John and I should know, bearing in mind my representation is mainly the River Trent, which isn't good, and we've lost roads. So there is real excellence within the whole of the authority. But Marie, I do like the fact that you've put down lessons learned. I think that's something that probably if you haven't already had it, bearing in mind that I only sit on this committee. I know I do come into communities and place and listen and watch, but if necessary, I think probably that should be fed to all the senior managers, that when they're doing a report, it would be quite good for us to understand the lessons learned. I think that would be good for the staff, for their morale, but most important of all, it would be good for us to pass on to the residents just how you've all been working. So well done, all of you, and I'm more than happy to support the recommendation.
Great. Thanks very much indeed. Yes, I do agree with you, the lessons learned, because when Marie was referring to them and that working together with a common goal and breaking down the barriers, etc. Just brilliant work. Councillor Gordon Wheeler, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Marie. Or can I just add my congratulations? And I promise not to repeat everything that's been said already, because it has all been said. But yes, please pass on my congratulations too. Well, I visited the service centre, gosh, it was a few years ago now. And blooming heck, I was impressed then at what I saw and the enthusiasm and engagement of the staff. Goodness me, my gosh, how things have moved on even since those wonderful days. It's great to see. It really is great to see. I'm going to pick up one other point which has not been covered so far, and I'm glad Councillor Henry is also in the discussions this morning. It's my Review and Development Committee. Now, I know your team feeds on customer service, customers' requests, complaints, issues, whatever you want to call them, to VIA, and in turn VIA contact councillors advising them of the issues. This is a huge change because I remember the days when we had virtually no information being fed through from VIA to us. We just said, we just got a query. We hadn't a clue what the query was or anything. It was just, it was ridiculous, quite honestly. But where we are now is a huge improvement. I just wondered, Marie, is there anything more that could be done in discussions with VIA and your good selves in getting even improving? Because you're talking about improvement all morning, and wow, great. Is there anything more that could be done to improve the communication between your team VIA as a result of the public contacting you, Marie? Thank you.
Marie, any ideas?
Off the top of my head, no, but there's always room for improvement, and I'll take it away and I'll find a way to make it better. So that's my promise to you. There will be a way and we'll find it.
I could ask for no more. Thank you, Marie.
Right, thank you for that. I can't at the moment see any other indication of anybody to speak, so we'll move to the
Chairman,
Councillor Dobson.
can I ask another question? On what Gordon Wheeler's just talked about, I don't seem to have a problem with the liaison team in my division. The VIA liaison team, in fact, the whole county run by Joe Horton, who incidentally is excellent, has really responded and kept me informed, and whoever contacts them either via Marie's team or they ring in, however they do it, I always get to know Gordon. So perhaps that's something that your review team, although you might only have one more meeting, I don't know, but perhaps you should invite somebody from, like Joe Horton, from VIA, and she would explain to you exactly what happened. Don't forget they've had a reorganisation, and I know that your vice chairman has the same area as myself, and I'm sure he will agree with me when I say that we get well informed. So perhaps it wouldn't be a bad thing, Gordon, if you could do that. Thank you.
Chairman, I really ought to say my district manager is fantastic. There was no criticism aimed at her whatsoever. She is brilliant and does keep me fully informed. I'm just looking, basically building on what Marie said earlier on, just because something works, it doesn't mean it can't be improved. That's all where I was coming from. If there's any way we can get a fuller information from the residents, which come through to Marie, to VIA, to councillors, it's something we should always be looking to for continuous improvement. That's all I was trying to say. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, I can't see any further speakers, so we've got the recommendation on page 21, but I'm going to suggest that we have a second recommendation as well, that we congratulate the group manager and the entire customer services team for all the excellent work they have done and continue to do on behalf of the residents and customers of Nottinghamshire. Is that acceptable to you? Is that in agreement? Yeah. So can I please then the recommendation 1 and the second recommendation of congratulations. Is there anybody against? Anybody abstaining? I'm therefore taking that then as unanimously in favour. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, councillors.
And well done. Item 6, page 29, health and safety monthly update. And if by magic, John Nyland has appeared on the screen, ready and waiting. So without further ado, John, good morning and welcome. And would you like to start us off?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. Yes, certainly. As the report's titled, it is the 6 monthly update. and the purpose of the report, really the main focus of this is around the attaining of 45,001, the health and safety management standard. And I'm pleased to be able to bring you significant progress on that. I know we've long spoken about this with action plans on many reports tabled at this committee. So I shall just go through the highlights of the report, and to say that following a successful audit by British Standards Institute on the 12th to the 14th of January, the council received a positive recommendation against the actual standard. A copy of the certificate is attached as Appendix A. I'll just draw your attention to note that it does mention the exclusion of adult social care and health. At this point in time, the scope for the whole authority will eventually be included, and the reason for this being that they weren't actually included within the scope of the former BS 18001. But there is now an ongoing programme to bring them into the fold, as if to say. So it will include the whole of the council services in time, and that will be reflected on the action plan. We actually attained this earlier than anticipated. There's some pragmatic decision making by BSI during the audits, and looking at the complexities of being able to audit fully under the light of COVID. And what we were able to do via both a hybrid mix of Teams meetings and an on-site visit was to establish at least 80% compliance against the standard. And where there were elements that we still need to demonstrate, we've developed an action plan where we need to look at and close those out at the next future planned audit, which is the 1st of July. Some of those are quite simple. The inherent issues around communication of risk assessment or audit programmes, where we need to make adjustments in line with the 45,001 standard. Other ones are more complex around how we look at the changing shape of the organisation, the scope of the organisation, and exactly what that means in terms of safety and communication and information to all the interested parties. And again, we're working now with other members in the risk management community to put a procedure into place for that. As I say, the next audit is the 1st of July, and I think truly this is where the work starts. Gaining an award like this is one thing, but obviously keeping the standard up is something entirely different. And we're taking now a different approach, where audits will in part be by remote auditing. We'll have a toolkit, new toolkit launched for managers and employees. We'll have a new training suite produced, and this will all be mirrored into a tool which was very similar to that which you may have seen for procurement. So it will be an online interactive tool, which indeed will take time to pull together, but we've got a reasonable start point, and I'll keep this meeting informed of progress as we move along. The standard itself doesn't alter massively in terms of the safety systems, but there are some new elements to this, and this is around communication and consultation with third parties, and also how we embed the safety culture across the organisation. So those are two significant differences. Overall, the costs have reduced in the region of 50%. And again, the reason for this, we're looking at around 9,000 per annum rather than between 18 to 20,000 under the 18,001 system. And this is just to do with how the audit days are pitched, the number of audit days we require and the number of auditors. So moving forwards, the actual cost is going to be less to the authority. So that really is the 45,001 certification and attainment. I think I'd just like to run through the highlights of other ongoing work that's going on a daily basis. Point 13 on the report, distribution of PPE. We continue to support all streams of PPE delivery. I think the support in terms of advice and wearing of PPE has lessened now. That's become embedded, but there's certainly support required on the distribution, where we now have the new lateral flow test centres have come online, and we continue to work with those teams who are supporting those centres. The lateral flow test centres in the community, the health and safety team we've had some good multi-agency working with both the fire authority and the district councils to establish the community centres. I believe there are about 12 as we speak today across the county, and we've provided the health and safety component to this with the initial site surveys and then the ongoing compliance checks with the environment, which we're doing on a risk-based approach now, dropping down to a 3-weekly basis, and we report back to the project team on a weekly basis. We're moving forwards with the progress of the elections. We're looking at the venues, the safety of the venues, the safety of the process, and again the equipment and personal protective equipment required. And the plan is well on target there to deliver a safe and COVID secure election. And work which I previously mentioned around the home interactive toolkit, the take-up of that has been extremely good. We've got near on 3,000 entries now for that, or returns. It is a interactive system which managers will receive an email and have to close out actions on receipt of the email. There are some common issues arising from that which we're dealing with, one being home fire safety. Again, working with the fire service, they've provided now home smoke detectors for staff who haven't had those in place, and have identified that on the report that they've completed. Other issues being around trip hazards and the home working environment. And I think, you know, from what we looked at a year ago, we're in a very different place of how we support workers moving forwards from a home environment now, and we're continually updating our thinking on that and kind of trawling best practice that's happening elsewhere. The other piece of significant progress is around the lone working system and people safe. So that's the new term for the lone working system. We've long talked about the personal lone worker alarms. This has now had approval by the corporate leadership team for a sign off of about 30,000 users, licenses, and identified that will be required across 118 teams. Not least, that will also include a package for yourselves, which I believe will be rolled out post-election with a supporting training package. And a lot of background work's gone into this. There have been a number of engagement sessions already, but at least that's now moving forwards. We have progress, and indeed we have that actually up and working now within some services. Schools, much in the media this week around the lateral flow testing. Again, my team have been involved very heavily within the processes around that, and the safe systems of working. So that's something running parallel to those tests in the community. And we've now started some business as usual within the schools community regarding auditing, compliance checking the building and facilities management, and around the delivery of a training programme, which we traditionally deliver the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health Head Teachers and Business Managers course. Some of those have now been delivered face-to-face in a COVID secure way, and the others online. So really that concludes the health and safety update, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much indeed, John. And yeah, many congratulations on everybody involved in achieving the 45,001 certification. Brilliant. Can I ask, is there anybody who wishes to make any comment? Councillor Henry?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. I did try to raise my hand. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
okay.
The list keeps coming and going, I'm afraid.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, Councillor Henry.
Yeah, thank you very much for the report. As usual, is a very good report. But I'd just like to ask just a question. What triggers have we identified which might alert line managers to health and safety concerns for our workforce prior to them becoming either complex or problematic? I know health and safety seems to focus on physical health. However, as you probably understand, emotional health and well-being is also arguably very impactful at the moment because of what's going on at the moment. And I'd like to hear about how we can ensure that we have some mechanism in place to identify the issues before they become entrenched.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Yes, if I may answer that, there are a number of inputs and feeds which alert us to take action. I think the 2 points to your question, one from the emotional and physical and mental well-being side. There are other elements of the authority putting a lot of work into this as well outside of health and safety, and they will have their own feeds and mechanisms to identify the issues. But certainly we're recognising health and safety and the health and safety community in general, the longer term impacts, certainly from home working that we've identified. There is a mechanism to put concerns within the home working tool, as I've mentioned in the report. Within general terms, alerts to ourselves, one of the elements of 45,001 really is about employee engagement and really opening up employee engagement to being able to talk around the health and safety issues and concerns. Prior to COVID, we had a program we just started of having employee engagement sessions and drop-down sessions within corporate buildings. We'll probably have to rethink that for the future. I think as we open up in time, they will still be possible as we have more collaborative space within buildings, and we'll still be able to offer that. But certainly it's something we can look at, but on a Teams-based, a one-to-one on a Teams-based system as well, opening up some health and safety workshops. Around physical safety, we identify problems from monitoring accidents and incidents to statistics. We get the inputs from the JCMPs, the consultative panels, and the trade unions and the trade union representatives. There are the risk and safety and emergency management groups that give input. And then there's, of course, our own active and reactive monitoring programs of actually being on site, engaging with staff. So there are many inputs, really. It isn't from one single stream, if that goes some way to answer the question.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Dobson.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Nyland, as usual. It's a subject matter that a lot of people don't necessarily connect with, health and safety. Perhaps we should all connect a bit more often. But well done to you and the team. You've really been very flexible, doing all sorts of things to assist all sorts of organisations, including the health service, which has been really excellent. But I do like the little bit on loan support working. Yes, we've been talking about this, and you know that I've been talking to you about it, as I think Yvonne Woodhead and Sue Saddington have in particular. But I think there is absolutely no rush at this moment in time. But as long as we've got it in place ready for the new authority when it gets elected in May, I think that would be excellent. And you could actually run part of, and I'm sure Marge will organise this, a full training session, as we always have for new members anyway. But I think old members, if they get rid, should join that as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Would you like to name the old members, Councillor Dobson?
Well, it could be you,
yeah,
Chairman.
Yes, I know.
It could be me. It could be anybody.
Just jesting. And yes, you're right. Yes, it could be sort of part of an induction program for sure. Yeah, certainly.
That's correct. Yeah, it is actually programmed in as part of the induction program.
Yep, there we go.
Well done. Thank you, John.
Jolly good. Councillor Longdon, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well done, John, for getting the certificate of registration for health and safety. Health and safety, I've always chased up from time to time, because my background is in engineering, i.e. factories. I've seen many accidents and issues. Both my hands are damaged. My right hand's altogether with a screw, part of it anyway. So I understand health and safety in the workplace extremely well and experienced it. But that's by the by. But I've got to ask this question. Where did you come up with the word asymptomatic?
Asymptomatic. Thank you, Councillor Longdon. I believe that was probably NHS.
Sorry, one at a time. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, John. Carry on.
Yes, we can't claim credit for that, Councillor Longdon. I think that was probably the NHS or Public Health England.
Thank you, Chair.
Great. I can't see any other hands up as far as I'm aware. No. So go to the recommendation then on page 32 to congratulate the health and safety team on attaining 45,001, and secondly to receive the update report in 6 months. Is there anybody against those recommendations? Is there anybody abstaining? So I will take that as unanimous support. So thank you very much indeed, and thank you, John, for coming and joining us.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
On to item 7, page 37, and this is about PPE, personal protective equipment. And if I could, yes, there she is. Welcome, Kaj Gatora, to the meeting. Morning, Kaj. Very welcome. I know you've been very, very busy handling the odd few million pieces of PPE here and there. So would you like to introduce the report to us, please?
Thank you, Chair. Morning, all.
Morning.
So this report provides members with an update on the provision of PPE in response to COVID-19, as well as seeking approval to continue with the resources required to continue this sustainable operating model until end of March 2022. So the council continues to provide PPE to health and social care settings, and that's been widened out to education and other voluntary and community sectors through national guidance. And we've been doing that since March 2020. And just to give you a context of the scale, so to date, we've fulfilled over 3,000 requests of PPE and distributed over 2.2 million items. And you may recall I came to Personnel Committee in July 2020, and we had approval to establish staffing resource to support the council's ongoing requirements as part of our recovery plan. And this resource was established until May 2021. However, whilst the issues experienced around the supply chain in the early stages of the pandemic have now been resolved and PPE is a bit more readily available and the supply is stabilised at the central government, we do have a continued prevalence of COVID, and there's an ongoing requirement to continue to provide PPE. It's currently understood that despite the size and scale of the vaccination programme, we will still continue to be required to use PPE at the same levels for some time, and we don't envisage a change in guidance at this moment. Just to give you a bit of a context of supply, so the council has got PPE supplies that we've purchased, but we've also got an established route through DHSC with regular monthly drops. Our external social care providers are able to access PPE through the government portal, so that's all upstream now. And more items are now being put onto that. However, we are there as a backup. So if any of our external providers aren't able to access the full quantity, or if there's any items that they're missing, they do come to us and we do support them. We are also working in partnership with our neighbouring authorities to set up a contract for ongoing PPE supplies. And again, this will just build resilience going forward, and we hope to have that live from spring, summer this year. In terms of the logistics infrastructure, we've got a really good infrastructure and team in the north of the county with warehouse and all the PPE stored and distributed from there. What we're also now doing, as John mentioned, is supporting the logistics infrastructure for the rollout of the asymptomatic testing programme. So that is requesting the lateral flow tests from central government, storing those, and then onward distribution onto the various work streams that are being rolled out, including opening the community testing sites. In terms of the resources, the council's response to PPE has been resourced through a range of individuals, lots of support from various teams. And this report is asking for the approval for the proposed resources as identified in Table 1, and this will enable us to continue the PPE operations until March 2022. I'll stop there and happy to take any questions or comments from anybody.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. And I know that you too, like everybody else, have been working extremely hard and at times, well, certainly in the early days, under a heck of a lot of pressure, I know, to try and get everything in place like yesterday. I can understand now, and I'm sure everybody understands, that with the amount of work that has been continuing, the demand is still there, and so therefore the need for the recommendation to continue for another year and see how it goes from there, then perfectly understandable. So I have Councillor Henry, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I'm delighted that the PPE provision is being considered into 2021, as the safety of our frontline staff is paramount in this. But I would like a confirmation of ongoing funding support from government to cover the cost of PPE, as this is quite huge for us. So have we got any confirmation that they will continue to support us to cover the cost?
So we have had, obviously, we haven't had a specific grant for PPE. We have had some monies as part of our COVID grant. What we are also now doing is putting in a claim for the logistics support and infrastructure, because that hasn't been funded. So in fact, we're just putting some claim in for that for the period that we've been using our warehouse, and obviously undertaking an LRF role, which Nottinghamshire is doing as well. And we'd be hopeful that we'll get those monies reimbursed.
Okay. Right. Anybody else wishing to speak? I can't see anybody. So I think, as Kaj has indicated, and as the recommendation indicates, the recommendation on page 40, 1, 2 and 3 to continue the provision and the operation of PPE, etc., through to next year. Anybody against those recommendations, please? No. Anybody abstaining? Nope. So I will take that again as unanimous support. So thank you very much indeed, and thank you, Kaj, and continue the good hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. Item 8, page 43. The workforce availability, sickness absence performance, and very unusually, we've waited a long time in a committee meeting before bringing in Jill. So you've been able to sit back and enjoy the meeting. But now, Jill, would you like to introduce this item, please?
I would. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. And I'd like to thank you for the kind words at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you very much. They're very much appreciated. So today, the report focuses on Q3 sickness absence. But as we have over time, we look also at workforce availability that continues to be reported daily to the corporate leadership team, so they can see in almost real time exactly where absence is occurring, both for reasons of sickness, but also for reasons of people taking annual leave, compassionate leave, and all the various reasons that people are sometimes out of work. I've also sought in this report to give you some specific information about some of the things that we're doing as part of our ongoing programme of events, both in terms of health and well-being, but also as part of the Workforce Resilience and Recovery Group, because that is where we will determine and generate a lot of the future of work and how people can be supported moving forward post-pandemic into whatever work will look like in those circumstances. So hopefully you'll find some of that interesting alongside the statistical information as well. And I was struck, Councillor Henry, I think you questioned John in relation to the mental well-being of staff in one of your questions on health and safety. And I would like to reiterate and emphasise that we focus our programme of events and our support packages on both the physical and the mental well-being of our workforce, because they're interchangeable in many respects. So some things will focus very much on physical, some things very much on mental and emotional, but what we want to look at is the entirety of the package of support, so that that's not lost. In terms of workforce availability, we had kept very steady between 85 and 89%. And then in the period post-Christmas, that dipped. And there were various reasons for that. Some of that, it's a quarter where we tend to have higher incidence of sickness absence anyway. Generally, anecdotally, around the council, people found January very, very difficult, harder than perhaps previous lockdowns. It was a repeated source of conversation, how hard people found it. So it was almost inevitable there would be a dip in workforce availability. The other sort of impacting factor was the fact that we were trying to encourage people to use their annual leave. Yes, they couldn't go away on holiday. Yes, they couldn't visit relatives. But whatever service people have been working in, frontline or otherwise, there has been an impact. So the importance of taking annual leave for rest and recuperation has been continually highlighted, particularly as we get towards the end of the annual leave year. But actually, I'm pleased to report, having just seen today's workforce availability figure, that we're back up to 87.84%. Now, what we'll probably find is another dip on a Friday, because more people take their leave on a Friday than they do on a Wednesday. But that's the interesting thing about workforce. It's so current and that we can get that level of granular detail. I've mentioned previously the work of the Workforce Resilience and Recovery Group that Marge chairs, and the specific work stream on employee health and well-being that is being led by a colleague group manager from the Children's and Families Department. And work that's already been undertaken includes the improved profile of the support package on the front page of the intranet, so that people have more ready access to it, so they don't have to click through a number of screens to get to it. The other thing that has been one of the immediate benefits of that work stream is re-look at the supervision proforma and the supervision agenda. Supervision is the one-to-one dedicated time that employees have with their line managers. And that's to refocus on employee welfare as part of that agenda, still looking at casework, still looking at other aspects of work, but highlighting the importance of employee welfare as part of that discussion. And again, that goes to Councillor Henry's point about where do we find it, where's that early intervention. The signals should primarily be there for a line manager to see at the earliest opportunity if there is an issue developing, so that the person can be signposted to the necessary support. Moving then into sickness absence and paragraph 5, looking at the overall performance. So for quarter 3, sickness absence, including COVID-related absence, stood at 9.02 days, which was a slight increase from 8.96. Now, One of the reasons for that is that we have had a slight increase in absence for people reporting side effects having had their vaccination. It's not significant, but it has had a small impact. But as we've done throughout the course of the pandemic, we've also presented you with the figures with COVID-related sickness absence taken out. And in Q1, that stood at 8.3, Q2 at 7.82, and then for this last quarter, Q3, that stands at 7.4 days per employee. So if we take the COVID-related sickness absence out of the equation, we're 0.4 of a day away from meeting the stretch target of 7 days. So I think that's a very positive thing, and we're continuing to try and explore, because some of that is a benefit of COVID actually in how people have working a bit more autonomy in how and when you work has had a positive impact on people who may have had to call in sick with non-COVID related absence reasons prior to the pandemic. So although we've sort of been halted in our work with public health colleagues because they have obviously been very focused on the pandemic, some of the work that I'm going to go on and talk about with Loughborough University will hopefully provide us with some further insight into that. So in terms of casework, because casework continues, so we as a service encourage managers to maintain a focus on areas of absence that are giving cause for concern. Over the last quarter, Q3, there's been a further 30 ill health retirements. Sadly, I have to report one death in service in adult social care and health, not COVID related, I have to say a long-term illness. And then the fact that we have also had 2 dismissals arising from the application of the council's attendance management procedure, which is an agreed procedure and ACAS compliant, but is sort of procedure of last resort where absence somebody doesn't meet the pension criteria for ill health retirement, but there is no foreseeable return to work in sight from a recoverable illness, because we do have separate policies and procedures in place to support colleagues with terminal illnesses, which have been discussed here previously. Interesting to note that there still is 55.1% of the council's workforce have had no absence at all, no sickness absence at all in the last 12 months, and I think that's a significant figure. And that of the percentage absences, 12.9% of that is over 4 weeks, so stretching into the longer term. That means that 32% of our absence is between 1 and 28 days. And again, we continue to focus some attention on why people are off sick in the first instance and what it is that motivates them to either stay off or indeed return to work. That brings me to paragraph 10, where we highlight the work of the Loughborough University pilot research project. This started at the very beginning of February. We were initially contacted to see if we would be part of the programme. It's a Midland Engine initiative, and they didn't know whether we'd be a control organisation or whether we'd be a participant organisation. But having met with them several times and shared information and how we try to manage absence, they felt that we would be very well placed to be a participant rather than a control organisation. So that work is just 1 month in, so it's early days yet, and there's nothing to report because they're just working through the process. Very much about how we support people to return to work. So targeting what I've just said about understanding what it is that makes some people come back to work sooner than others, notwithstanding the very genuine nature of people's absences. We've got the usual information in the yellow pages of your pack that gives the breakdown of absences and absence reason. I've also included some of the information about the Loughborough research project, because I thought that might be of interest, just to see at a high level what the objectives of it are. So moving then to, and I've also included just for information, we promoted Time to Talk Day, which is a nationally recognised day where people pause, talk to colleagues, just to check in about their mental health. That day was recognised on the 4th of February, and I've just put some of the programme of events that the council was involved in over the course of that day. Whilst it's important to remember to have the support in place 365 days of the year, every day, some of these national events do actually provide a very helpful platform to showcase some of the aims, initiatives that we want to promote to the whole workforce. So that's why we seek to include that kind of information in this report, because it hopefully is of interest to see that it's not just the number crunching that we do, but we do try to do the softer elements as well. So I'll pause there for any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Jill. And it's certainly very encouraging to see that absence figure, excluding COVID, coming down close to the 7 days, down to 7.4. That's it just shows it can be done. It wasn't a very stretched target, but it's good to see it's close to that. So well done to everybody involved with that. Do we have any comments, questions, please? Yes, Councillor Henry.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Jill. It's been a brilliant report as normal. You always give these good reports. I like the way you answered the question I asked to Mr. Neelan earlier on about the linkages between emotional and physical issues, and I do recognise that that's happening. So it's good to see that. In terms of ongoing support for mental health and emotional health, in particular for triggering, at the moment there's lots of narrative around race and equality in the media currently. This will be stirring up a lot of emotions within our BME workforce, and I know as well that there is things going on where we haven't really we haven't assessed really how race and discrimination has been a contributing factor to the absences that we have. I'm not sure if we've done that or not. We might be doing that. But what support do we put in place to support the Black and ethnic minority groups at the moment in terms of triggering and what's going on in the media at the moment?
So the policies and procedures of the County Council apply to all our workforce, whether they're from Black, Asian, minority ethnic background or not, as do the support. But yes, it is recognised that there has, for some communities, been a more significant impact during the pandemic. That's one of the reasons why we meet on an increased regularity with colleagues from the Black Workers Network Executive. Fortnightly we meet as a mechanism to raise issues, to talk through guidance that's published, to see if there is any particular focus we need to consider for that part of our workforce. We also trained additional mental health first aiders in direct response to a request from the Black Workers Network to have people from a similar background or ethnicity, because it was felt that that might encourage some colleagues to come forward and engage with the mental health first aiders. So we responded to that and trained an additional 6 who were nominated from that group. It's ongoing and it's iterative, because pretty much every day there is a piece of research published about the impact of the pandemic at different stages of the pandemic as well. So we do access that information and learning, and as other colleagues have said, we seek to learn from that and also develop support. If there's something we don't have currently that would assist, we're more than happy to consider that. And I think we've demonstrated over the course of the last 12 months that we've done that and responded positively and put in place what's been requested. But similarly to what Marie says, you're never done. There's always ways to improve. And that's why we carry on having the dialogue.
Okay, is that all right, Councillor Henry? Yep. Great. Councillor Jonathan Wheeler, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just say it's encouraging to see the figures going the right way, as you've already mentioned. I think what's really important, though, is that we keep reminding our managers they've got to keep their focus on this, because we know there might be some people who are not putting themselves down as sick because they're working from home, and perhaps they're able to work from home but wouldn't have been able to make the journey to work, and I completely understand that. So we need to know that these figures may not be the true reflection, but at the same time, I think what's important to say as well is the HR team, led by Jill, are doing a great job. It's not their job to bring this rate down, it's the managers. So I think that focus needs to still be on there. So Jill and team will continue doing the training and development of these people to do the right return to work interviews and to have those conversations with people to see if there's anything we can do to help support them, because that's ultimately what it is. It's not a stick to beat people with, it's to see what an issue may be, if they're having time off maybe for mental health issues but don't want to say that for whatever reason. That's why one of the various schemes we've got in place, like the buddy scheme, and and that's why these informal chats with line managers come in handy. So great to see, like I say, great to see it going the right way. I think we just need to, as I say, don't let these managers let them off the hook and take the foot off the gas, keep going the right way as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? I can't remember if it was Marie or if it was somebody else who just mentioned, with the pandemic crisis, there are always some benefits somewhere, and perhaps the point you touched on about people more prepared to still work if they weren't able to make the journey in, but they're working from home and therefore they are working. So possibly that's one of the benefits. I haven't anybody else, as far as I can see, this is indicated, to comment or ask questions. No. Okay, so we have the sorry, the page is just stuck together. We've got the recommendation on page 48, 1, 2 and 3. So is there anybody against those recommendations? Anybody abstaining? So I will take that as unanimous approval. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you, Jill. Although I think we are going to come back to you very speedily on item 9 and the employee engagement with the council's workforce. Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to lower my hand. Sorry.
Oh, we're trying to lower it. Oh, right.
Sorry. That's it.
I'll get a pair of scissors and I'll cut the wire. Will that? Great. All right. Fine. Good. Lovely. So long as everybody's happy, that's great. So, Jill, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, thank you. So this report has been presented on the back of a number of discussions that we've had at recent meetings, where we've spoken about things that the council's workforce told us, and members have said they've spoken to members of the workforce as well. And it struck me that we hadn't told you what officially the level of communication and engagement that's going on with the workforce. So we've tried to draw some of the strands of what we've done to date, and also to give you a flavour of what's planned for the future in terms of communication and engagement with our workforce. And I think it was Councillor Wallace who alluded earlier about the importance of talking to the people who are doing the work, because they know how it's done best. And if we want to improve and develop services, that's one of the reasons why this engagement is really, really important as we move through the pandemic into recovery. So that's a bit of the context of it. And it's also enshrined in a number of the work streams. So the Workforce Resilience and Recovery Group, which we've spoken about before, and members here have approved the strategy and the action plan to come out of that group, we can plan the best way to reoccupy buildings, develop a new service. But if we don't take the council's workforce with us and explain and understand and get their feedback on what's been planned, it won't feel as if it's for them. It will feel as if it's been done unto them. And that is a really important distinction to make. So what we want to do is create an environment where the employees of the council, wherever they work, because it will be different in different parts of the council, have the support and opportunity to give their feedback, give their thoughts, attend sessions with senior officers if that's what they choose to do, whether they have ready access to technology or whether they want to sit down and talk in their team and then send an email. We want to make sure that we're using the right platforms to engage with the right people about the right things at the right time, which sounds a bit off pat and twee, but it really has a fundamental importance to the future success of the organisation, because we know it's going to be different in the future, but for some people it will feel like the same. So if we keep talking about it being different for everyone and somebody says, but for the last 12 months I've done my job exactly as I've done it before because that was what was required of me, we need to understand how we blend those messages. So members may recall back in 2018 it was that we had a very difficult consultation and negotiation around changing our package of terms and conditions. And people were very unhappy and people weren't going to accept them. So what we did is we paused at that point and we ran a whole series of workshops which large numbers of the council had the opportunity to attend. And for those who couldn't attend, they could email in questions, they could email in comments to say, this is why I don't like it. But in doing that, what people also did was tell us what it felt like to be an employee of the council. So they told us about their annual leave, they told us, but they fundamentally told us how proud they were to work for the council, how proud they were, how they wanted to advocate for the service users that they worked with. So that was a really interesting moment in time, and we were able to move forward from that with a revised package, and we got a collective agreement where people had voted and to accept. Moving forward then, there have been lots of ad hoc pieces of engagement and communication. And at the start of the pandemic, where the chief executive announced that people had to, where possible, go home and work from, that was a very instructive communication because we needed people to do it and do it quickly so that they could be safe. What's developed more over the course of the pandemic is a more collaborative conversation. So we've started a series of question and answer sessions. We've had 2 so far, but there are more in the pipeline about a whole variety of things that people have told us are important to them. And one of the most important things that you can do with an employee is listen to what they have to say. So it's not just having an exercise where lots of people come and say a lot of things and we do nothing about it. What people are saying to us in those sessions, in response to surveys, we're using that information to inform the action plans and develop the strategies. So, and then we'll go back and we'll ask again so we can measure and see whether we've done what people expect and whether it's had the impact or made the difference that it was intended to do. And that doesn't take away from the need for managers to have those individual conversations or teams to have their meetings. It's just another facet of how we will gather information, feedback, ideas from our workforce. And that similarly is replicated in how we choose to work with our recognised trade unions. So wherever possible, we seek to have joint work. We've had more frequent engagement over the course of the pandemic, and where issues have arisen, we've sought to problem solve them together. Similarly, the work with all three of the self-managed groups has benefited because we've listened to the particular issues arising from members of those groups and networks and be able to address them as we've gone along with that more regular engagement, so that things are nipped in the bud. They don't escalate to become massive, big problems, because the dialogue is ongoing and people feel that they've been listened to and that relevant actions taken. So this report seems a bit nefarious, not much tangible in it, and we will be bringing you a strategy and action plan next time. But because of the conversations we've been having, it felt appropriate to let you know that we're not doing anything in isolation. We are continuing to have that feedback and dialogue with the workforce. And in paragraph 12, I've just replicated some of the comments that people made after the last Q&A session, which happened to be with the Chief Executive, the Corporate Director for Place, Marge, where people really valued the session. There were 44 colleagues on that, and we've got around 7,500 employees. So we've got to find a way of reaching the people who want to be reached, because some people are quite happy to come in, do their job, go home, and don't really want to express their opinion to the Chief Executive or to their manager. But they're very good at their job, and but what we want to ensure is people have the right conditions to be engaged and say what they want to say appropriately, so that they can be involved in the development of services and ideas and plans for the benefit of our residents and also for the workforce. And in the yellow pages attached to this, there is some of the feedback from an earlier survey, but also some things that we call Menti diagrams. So these are word clouds, and you sit and you vote on your phone, so it's very real-time information. And it's how people were feeling at the start of the year. And, you know, some positive things: hopeful, supported, valued, but things we'd expect as well: frustrated, tired, anxious. And that's really, really valuable information, because that will help inform how we look to support people as they either continue working as they are or as they come back into buildings. So the intention is to use the SWORD diagnostic, which is a social work tool, but to broaden it out to use across the whole workforce, so we can gather information about what people feel about work in general. We're also going to do some things called pulse surveys, and I know there's one planned in the very near future for adult social care and health, which is a more immediate tool. So it's like testing the temperature of where people are at a particular moment in time. So we're going to explore a range of activities, and we're going to ask people how they want to be engaged with, and where, you know, some of that might be face-to-face in future, some of that might be virtually, some of that might be through workshops, some of that might be through these Menti surveys, some of it might be through more detailed analytical surveys. But it was just to give you a flavour today that activity is going on and will continue, because it's really valuable, and some of the insight you get is fascinating and really encouraging as well in many respects. So just pause there. As I said, it's not got huge amount of substance in terms of this report, but that's something that we'll develop on over time.
Thank you very much indeed, Jill. Questions and comments, Councillor Henry, please.
Yes, thanks very much, Jill. I'm glad you said about the report, because you've taken taking the wind out my sail, really, because I was going to ask a few questions, especially in the paragraph 15 and so on, and also in the yellow pages where I was looking at the comments that people were like flogged and lonely and used and dejected, all those negative connotations. I was going to explore them, but I won't now because you've had more or less answered already. So all I'm going to ask is about in point paragraph 11. I've looked at the bits around the feedback that you had. It said there appears to be no inclusion around how the black staff felt, particularly since the Black Lives Matter movement and the issues with COVID at the moment. And I know they met with the like you've said in paragraph 10, that they met with the chief exec, and that was, I guess that was all put down, but it's been missing in this bit. So just an explanation, really.
Jill?
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Henry. So the session with Black, Asian and minority ethnic staff is referenced in paragraph 10. The feedback, I think, refers to specifically from the most recent event. And there has been feedback and ongoing discussion about the issues raised in the session with Black, Asian and minority ethnic colleagues. But actually, a lot of what was said are covered in those bullet points because the issues, in many respects, are the same. So
exactly.
Career development, for example, was an area highlighted by many colleagues in that first session, as was general concern about how people work and smarter working. Yes, the arranged session was in response to colleagues' request to start a dialogue subject post the resurgence of Black Lives Matter. But it wasn't solely about that. And as the conversation developed, it became more general and more aligned with what the second session covered, which was open to everyone.
Can I just come back to it?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I do understand, Jill, but it just feels like they've been ignored.
Well, I think, Councillor Henry, can I just say, paragraph 11, I think we've got to bear in mind that we're talking about all staff here.
Yes, I know.
And all employees. And I think what Jill has outlined is an all-inclusive parameter that covers everybody. So, you know, all groups are involved in this. So I think, Marge, were you wanted to speak?
I'm wondering if there's a bit of confusion here, Councillor Henry, because we bought a report solely with the very detailed feedback from the discussions with the Black staff and those questions and answer sessions last time. So we've had a very detailed feedback. So I think that's why it's the detail that was included last time, that we discussed at Personnel Committee last time, doesn't need to be reiterated again this time. So that's why it's not referred to in that level of detail, because you had a report solely on it.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
To be honest with you, that's what prompted us to think, we've talked about the feedback from the Black staff, but we haven't talked about the engagement with the Black staff. We haven't talked about the engagement with everybody else. So it was actually the other way round, is my recollection.
I understand it now. It's not.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
yeah,
I understand you now.
I think it's confusion.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Dobson.
Yes, Chairman, I was just going to say what Marge has already said. We did have a full discussion, and Marge herself said, I think we'll go away and we'll talk to everybody. Yeah. And I think, thank you, Jill. This is a start, and I look forward to hearing a bit more next time round, because at the end of the day, if you haven't got a happy, contented, healthy staff, we can't operate. And it doesn't matter who you are, what department you're in, what you do. At the end of the day, you are all valued, and that's what it's all about. So I think, yes, we did go away. We did have that full report last time about BAME, and I think now we're going to hear and put it all together. Jill will collate it. Jill, you've got a mammoth job, but never mind. Get on with it because you'll do it. And then we can have a full discussion about it at the next meeting, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
Or the one after. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill. You've had your instructions, Jill. So there you go. Right. I can't see anybody else indicating to speak. So we have the recommendation on page 72, 1 and 2. I think there might be just a very minor tweak. Reply to 2 doesn't quite make grammatical sense. I think it perhaps if we insert the word that, so to commend the positive engagement that continues to enable the ongoing positive contribution, etc., etc. So with those 2 recommendations, is there anybody against those recommendations? Anybody abstaining? Nope. So I will take that as unanimous approval then of those 2 recommendations. So thank you very much indeed, Jill. On to item 10, the work programme, and I'm just going to, before I bring Marge in, I'm just going to make mention here, the work programme for the April meeting, they are all updates, and so I was just queried and had a discussion with Marge as to whether we actually need that meeting to take place, given the fact that the elections are about to take place and there'll be a new council and potentially a new committee. And I thought that perhaps those updates would be rather more fitting at the beginning of a new council, so that there's something to sort of kickstart and prompt a new committee working, rather than us looking at an update that will then, that the council will then be finishing less than a month, or in fact sort of a couple of weeks after that committee. So I don't know, Marge, is there anything? I mean, obviously I'm saying that subject to something urgent coming up that may necessitate something happening, but my sort of gut feeling is that we dispense with the April committee, subject to there being anything urgent that comes up. Marge, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is an update on the potential for updates would be that we won't be in a position to bring the disability confident update in April anyway, so that would even lessen the number of things that we'd be able to bring forward.
Right. Okay, so does anybody have any, Councillor Dobson?
Yes, Chairman, I think that's a sensible idea, and if that's the case, I would like to go with you and actually not have the meeting, but in doing so, I'd like to say goodbye and thank you to your Vice Chairman, if that's the case, because he will not be around because he's stepping down and retiring. So I think Keith needs a thank you. And if there's anybody else that's on this committee, I mean, all of us could be gone. But having said that, I do know that Keith is retiring. So with that, I think that's first class.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, let's just deal with that and let's just make that formal. Is everybody comfortable if I just propose that the April meeting is cancelled subject to something substantive and urgent coming up that requires specific action, but as things stand at the moment, that we cancel the April meeting? Does everybody accord with that, or is there anybody against that or abstaining? It looks like that is unanimous approval. So thanks for that. So with that, that means then potentially on almost 99% that this is the last meeting of the Personnel Committee for this council term. So whatever happens, there will be a new council at the beginning of May, and so this committee, as it comprises at the moment, will cease to operate in its current form. So Councillor Dobson has already sort of commented that I think there are at least 3 members that I'm aware of that are retiring, apart from Keith Walker, the Vice Chairman, who thank you very much indeed, Keith, for all your support as Vice Chairman. Very much appreciated. And I hope I'm correct in saying that I think Councillor Wallace and Councillor Longdon are retiring as well.
Not me.
Sorry?
I don't think so.
You don't?
Okay. No?
Oh, sorry, got that wrong. Oh, right.
Wrong information.
Right. Okay. So it's Councillor Wallace that's certainly said he was retiring. So
And I'm heading off to the hills, the Bavarian mountains.
Enjoy retirement.
Well, yes.
So I don't know if there's anybody
Councillor
else.
Councillor Walker wants to speak.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Walker.
Yes, well, yes, I shan't be with you next time, but thank you for all your best wishes, and could I wish everybody that is putting up for election all the very best. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. Well, I do want to pay special thanks to the staff. I want to thank Marge as Service Director for all her value support and advice and guidance, etc., and all the managers, but obviously Jill particularly, because Jill has sort of taken the lion's share of the, or lioness's share, I'm not sure which is right, of the work. So she has done a tremendous job for bringing all this work together that we have been doing. And I'll pick up Councillor Dobson's comments near the beginning of the meeting, where I think we have all worked together. You know, again, picking up Marie's comments about for a common goal. So we work together because it's important that we are working for the benefit of Nottinghamshire. We're not working for the benefit of ourselves. So apart from Jill, then obviously all the other managers and all the other staff who have supported the work of the committee, all very much appreciated, and thank you. And also to Sarah for keeping us connected and and communicated with, etc. So and thank you for all your support in the work on the committee. And just remains for me really just to say thank you for all your work and support, and to wish you the best for those that are not standing for re-election again. Best wishes for whatever your continued activities are, and for those that are, then best wishes for your electioneering, and we will be gathering together. Those of us that are re-elected will be gathering together for a new council come the beginning of May. So with that, I will close the meeting and wish you all I was going to say a safe journey home for those of you who might still be travelling home, or a safe journey to the kitchen or the lounge or wherever.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Anyway, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Chairman. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
And you.